All right, so welcome everyone to our second CyberSafe Kiwis webinar. Today we'll be covering the topic of the best cyber hygiene practices. So I'll be your host and I'll just introduce myself a little bit. So I'm Maddie and I've worked with ESET for 2 years now. I started here by doing support for home users. So some of you might even recognize me if you've ever given us a call before. I've also got Ashton and Brad with me today, so I'll hand over to Brad first just to introduce himself a little bit.
Morning, everyone. I'm sort of the ESET business manager across New Zealand, so I work alongside Maddie for the consumer side of things. And I guess my main focus is on the business range, actually. But yeah, always in these sessions, and it's great to see some names recognised from our retailers around the country as well.
Sweet, and I'll just get Ashton to give a little bit of an intro on himself as well.
Yeah, good morning, guys. I'm Ashton. I'm the marketing manager for Chilisoft and ESET New Zealand. So, yeah, we really hope you enjoy the webinar this morning.
Sweet. So I'm now the consumer business executive for the consumer range, and I do specialize in ESET. So for those who are joining us, my bad. For those who are joining us for the first time today, I'll explain a little bit what is CyberSafe Kiwis. So it is an initiative that we've launched and rooted in educating people such as yourself who are just looking to get their smarts up a bit with technology. So it's open to anyone, whether you are an ESET customer or user, or you're just interested. These presentations, they're all for helping Kiwis be smarter and safer online through three key qualities that we promote. So that's to inform, educate, and therefore protect. So you can always invite friends or family along, and we welcome anyone of any literacy level in technology. So if you happen to miss our first webinar, that's no problem. So we record all of our sessions and you can watch it later. Just let us know your email in the survey at the end so that we can send you the recording, but we also email you the recording after the session as well. So last time we spoke a little bit about the current cybersecurity landscape in New Zealand and broke down the different kinds of ways threats behaved and what their classifications are, just to better understand the way they're used against us in our online use. So in today's follow-up episode, we'll be covering some habits that to proactively protect yourself from these things and some other things as well. Just in case anyone joins us who is not familiar with ESET and is wondering what qualifies us to give these kinds of presentations on cyber safety. So ESET is a cybersecurity solution provider, and we've been distributed in New Zealand for over 20 years. We have partners all the way from the tip of the North Island all the way to the bottom of the far South Island in Invercargill, but we're headquartered here in Auckland. So we provide reliable, secure cybersecurity nationwide for all and any kind of environment. And to complement that, we do pride ourselves on having local Kiwi support and also local Kiwi partners. That's always just a phone call or an email away for our clients. And I'll just get Brad to add a little bit more regarding the partners.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So, just the reason why we talk about the partners is that obviously, we couldn't deal with the 100,000 or whatever number of home licenses we have out there if we were to do all the support ourselves. So yeah, we've got partners. You can literally see the arrow there is pointing to Invercargill. We've got partners in Greymouth, Kaitaia, you name it, we have them. So I guess the purpose of this point is just to say, hey, if you don't have a reseller at the moment, or you're interested in purchasing ESET, or you've got other things you need to ask about a computer, maybe you need a new printer at the moment or a new monitor. And you'd like to be in touch with us to confirm, who's a good trusted partner in your area, just reach out to us, and we'll be able to recommend one that we work with and that we know and is a great partner to work with, for that specific requirement that you have. So you definitely reach out to us, and we'll get you in touch with the partner.
Sweet. So let's jump in today. So before we get into the best habits, so to speak, let's look at some general advice that we all might have grown up hearing and how relevant they are in the online space still today. So you're all probably familiar with this list here, either having heard it in school or repeated by online safety campaigns. So things like don't share your passwords or login info, and never send private pictures, don't open any attachments, don't talk to strangers online. But the internet has changed quite a lot since that time. And I'd argue that most of us, including myself, do tread a bit thinly on the line around on this advice, depending on what we're doing online. So what exactly do I mean by that? Just from these few examples listed here on the screen, so we've got Facebook, we've got online shopping places like Trade Me and messaging apps. Many of them do require your personal information in order to either sign up or use them. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., all of those require extensive sharing of your personal information, especially if you make the profiles about yourself and your life. So online shopping sites might not need extensive information for you to sign up and use, but as you communicate with sellers, you might need to give your address for a delivery or pick an area to meet up and inspect things with strangers. Messaging apps, again, also don't require a lot of your personal information to sign up for, but their whole purpose is to talk, meet, and get to know strangers a bit more intricately, which over time can evolve into you sharing things about yourself. Now, I'm not going to be unrealistic and say you should never use these apps or never share anything about yourself online, because there's a lot of good qualities about them, which is why they're so successful in the first place. So we've got meta apps here, which include things like Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, as the internet is regarded as today's new meetup spot. And as time goes on, it will most likely be even more true in that regard. So with these apps here, we share all kinds of information about our everyday life for our family or friends. We might even meet people to go to events together or join hobby groups that can really enrich our lives. But again, for these things to function, it does rely on us sharing our personal information about our real lives. And we might not really know where to draw the line or who's actually looking at that information. Messaging apps like Discord or Telegram, etc., is gaining more popularity because it's regarded as being more secure and removed from your real life. And although as you meet strangers online and get to know them better, you might end up mutually sharing things about yourselves to each other in order to get to know them a little bit more behind the way they present themselves online. Now, this is also more popular with younger generations rather than older. So, again, there is concern around how to effectively educate teens or children about what is considered safe and unsafe to share. In an ideal world, we can say that they should never share anything to anyone online until they're older. But the reality is that this will happen regardless. So the best approach is to educate them about what is appropriate and inappropriate to share with people and how it may affect them growing up. So let's look at those general advice that we hear already with the examples that I listed. 3 of them immediately became kind of irrelevant, right? Whether it's voluntary or the fact that the app needs these things for you to register for it or for it to function. So things like don't share your personal information online, never send private pictures, don't talk to strangers, those all kind of go out. The only 2 that I see people trying their best to stick to anymore is to not share their login information or do their best to avoid opening things that look suspicious. So how can we approach this in the best way? So personally, I've broken it down into the Cyber Smart spectrum. Now, what exactly is the Cyber Smart spectrum? So each one of us falls somewhere on the scale. We may even shift a little bit around it depending on the scenario that we face. We're always told to be cautious online, but what about when it goes too far to the point of paranoia or not far enough to the point of being too relaxed or vulnerable? Ideally, we always want to be in the middle to have a good balance, but how can we best achieve this? To answer that, we first have to break down what each cyber personality behaves like online. So you might not relate to all of these traits, or maybe you shift between them. So let's look at them a little bit more in depth. First, we have 2-lax. Now, 2-lax takes everything at face value. They accept and believe most things they come across online, even if it might be untrue, because it seemed believable enough to them. This is especially starting to be more common with AI getting quite realistic. If they don't understand how something works or why something matters, for example, why enabling two-factor authentication would be important for logins, they're unlikely to try and understand, or rather simply not care about it. They tend to live by the motto, "I've always done it this way," because it might have worked that way for a while, which cemented that habit. But unfortunately, with technology, things are always changing, usually for a reason, and adapting this mindset is not that great. Now, Cyber Smart is the ideal personality here. They know what is expected versus unexpected when they're presented things online. For example, if you are sent an email invoice demanding payment for an item you know for a fact you've never bought, that's unexpected. They're just going to go and bin that email without engaging with it. If they don't understand, they try to learn. So being inquisitive is quite important, just like you guys watching the webinar today. Learning about things to become more knowledgeable about things you might not be as familiar with is your best strength. So this is especially important with a rapidly evolving space such as being online. I know things change and my habits will too, just like if a speed limit around a school was lowered for the safety of pedestrians around it. You're not going to keep driving the previous speed limit because that's how it always was. The police probably won't like that answer very much, but it's similar online. Your habits will have to change because technology changes too. Now, paranoid is the rarer type of personalities here, but I believe they emerge more when people are presented with a situation online they haven't faced before, or if they have been compromised in the past. So they can become suspicious of everything all the time, which is really exhausting when they're trying to read between the lines of every text, every email, or every website. And if they don't understand, they're also less likely to try and learn it because it can be overwhelming. They'll back out entirely or rely on someone else completely because they feel afraid to do something wrong. When something happens that's unexpected, they can be similar to 2-lax in a way where they can take it at face value and become victimized again, or panic and try and avoid doing things online as much as possible. It's okay if you've ever been in the 2-lax or the paranoid side. We're here today to learn how to be cyber smart as much as possible. If you're not entirely sure where you align just yet, let's look at some of the cyber hygiene practices of each of these personalities. So how does 2-lax treat their personal information? And I'll break down later what that classifies as exactly. So they're pretty happy to share that to almost anyone online. Friends and family is what we all here probably do, but they'll even share things to people they don't really know in real life because they don't really see the harm in it either. Um, Login information is a bit of a hassle for 2-lax. They have a handful of passwords they rotate between most, if not all, the sites they use, probably ones they even made back when they were younger. They'll just slightly alter it if the website requires them to, such as adding an exclamation point or a number at the end, which can actually leave them vulnerable if their accounts have ever been compromised in a data leak previously. It makes it easy for bad actors to gain access to even more of their accounts with such simple alterations. Their general cyber savvy isn't the best. They will delay updates to things because it's annoying or an inconvenience. And they don't understand that most of the time it's not just for aesthetics, but for security reasons too. They're just used to the way things always were. They're more likely to open links and attachments from unknown sources, just simply out of curiosity. And if anything weird happens, they'll just close it and hope it's gone. Paranoid here might avoid sharing information online as much as they can, which you'd think would be a good thing, but it can become a real hassle for them if they're ever trying to use legitimate services or sites or systems, as they have a hard time trusting it. They might have overly complex passwords, especially if they've been compromised before, which can be hard to keep track of and requires them to reset it a lot. They might even use extra security measurements without understanding exactly how it works and get confused or locked out of accounts by mistake. They do their best not to open links or attachments, which you think could also be a good thing, but it can be stressful when dealing with legitimate sites and services again. They delay updates as they're worried it'll be too overwhelming to get used to. And if something happens that's unexpected, they can become even more overly cautious or move away from trying to familiarize themselves with all things online, as it can be a little bit too much to take in. Now, best for last, Cyber Smart. So they build up trust before sharing things, especially when they're in an online space with strangers. They keep their online lives and their private lives separate as much as possible, just as a measure of protection. So not sharing things that people could use to trace back to their place of education, employment, family members in their real life. Now, again, this is not to say you can't share anything at all with people online, but a good line of thought to have is, would I want this person or the thing that I'm sharing this with to be able to reach out or contact any of these sources that I'm telling them about? So they do have a couple of complex passwords for important sites, such as banking or social medias, but they don't share that with any of their other login accounts. They keep track of what they sign up for and why. For example, if you sign up to Nike's website for a 10% discount one time, they go back and delete that account once they're done, or use a temp mail account, which I'll share more info on later on. But the reason it's important to keep track of what you sign up for online is because even though you might be savvy and not get breached, that is not to say that the companies holding this information are incapable of being breached themselves. So knowing what accounts you have and where is important to keep track of if you ever need to change those credentials in the future. So they do their updates when they're released, getting them done and dusted as soon as they can. And they check the source of things before they open links or attachments. They adapt to new systems by learning about them first. And if something happens, they have a cybersecurity software to keep them safe as a backup. So that's a lot to take in at once, but you might now have a better idea of where you fall on the Cyber Smart spectrum. And if you're feeling like it's a bit of an information overload, don't worry, because we'll break it down into something easy and memorable soon. As cyber hygiene is not as simple as going, do this, but don't do that, and do this instead, as it's an it depends thing for most circumstances. Now, you might be wondering, why did I encompass their habits around these three main things? So their personal information, their login information, and the general cyber savvy. This is because I believe at this time, this is what makes up your general presence online. And when bad actors are creating scams or phishing attacks or anything like that, they're relying on one of these pillars for their victims to be weak. So when I spoke about personal information, this is what I was referring to. So that's your full name, your address, family members, workplace, age, etc. This is the kind of things you generally want to avoid sharing online, especially if you don't know the quote unquote audience well enough. Again, I won't be unrealistic and say you should never share anything personal online, but just ask that question again of, would I want them to be able to contact, reach out, or share any of the things that I'm telling them about? Now, this is mainly for strangers or social medias. This is not the government or established services and trusted companies. So login information is also important, and these are examples of what I associate with it. So your passwords, usernames, login codes, email addresses, etc. Most people are pretty good. And they know that you are never meant to share these details to anyone else. It's pretty self-explanatory what can happen if a bad actor has access to this information, which is why it's so important to keep track of what you sign up for and why. It's also making complex credentials for important sites and enabling security features when you can and when you understand them. So general cyber savvy is related to these aspects, so software updates, and knowing if a site is safe or unsafe, having security software, knowing what's expected versus unexpected, etc. Now, generally for most viruses that we all are familiar with, they're counting on this pillar for you being the weakest. This is why education, such as these webinars, are so important and to never be afraid or to stop learning about how things change over time, as it can be your biggest strength and protection against these threats. So how are these pillars actually used to target victims? So what happens when an attack is launched for each of them, and what can they sort of manifest as? When someone's targeting you for personal information, normally their aim is to use it against you. So it can look like identity theft, blackmailing, threats, and stalking. So when you share these things with people or strangers online, assume that it's already been downloaded and saved, and keep in mind to share things you'd be fine with other people sharing as well. What about login information? Again, this one's pretty self-explanatory. They can compromise your account, they can leak the information elsewhere, they can impersonate you on your accounts or potentially lock you out of them. This is normally done for either a ransom or some kind of exchange. So keep track of what you sign up for and why. And remember not to have the same rotating passwords or credentials for important sites and more casual sites. And general cyber savvy is mainly what malware and viruses target against. So they count on you not understanding how things work or why cybersecurity software is needed / matters. So that they can either install malicious software, socially engineer a scam, which means it's a scam that only relies on manipulating you, not doing anything necessarily to your device physically a lot of the time. It can also mean you leave your device more at risk for these attacks by not updating, or you can fall behind when things change. So over time, you're less willing to learn the why and how of things and how they work, or why they're being changed to begin with. So what can we do? Or how can we take all that information and break it down into something easy to remember when we're presented with these kinds of threats? So even if you don't know how technology really works and its intricacies, there is key aspects of every attack that's always present. So let's make it easy as phish, which if you don't know, is an attack where they try to deceive or manipulate you into falling for it through various means. So phish stands for, in this instance, pause, hover, identify, source, and hold. So slow down when you pause, because most attacks will always try to rush you and force you into a sense of urgency. Hover. Now, even if you can't hover over links if you're on a mobile device, hover over the text with your eyes. Read through it carefully. Does it make sense? And is it expected? Identify. Any red flags? Is it making demands, or is there strange reasoning that doesn't really make sense? Is it designed to make you feel guilty or worried? And source. Is it an expected sender? Do I trust the source, and do I really know them? And hold. This one's really important. So hold off. You can always check by researching first if there's been a scam similar to this. You can call up either a savvy family member to check. If you're an ESET customer, you can call us if you're unsure, or if you're with an IT Tech or one of our partners, you can check with them as well. Remember, they're rushing you. They're trying to make you feel guilty or worried and create quite an urgent situation so that you might miss the red flags. Just pause and run through this checklist. So let's apply fish to some example scenarios so that you can get used to it and sort of cement it into your head. And we'll see how it applies to quite a few different circumstances. All right, so first up, we have an invoice from Geek Squad. First, let's pause and think a little. Have I ever gotten an invoice from Geek Squad before? I don't remember paying for that, that's for sure. Now let's hover. So they're saying here that I have a subscription for over $300. I don't recall that money ever being spent or taken out of my account. So let's identify. You know, they say that the subscription will auto renew every year unless I turn it off, no later than 24 hours. Again, that's giving me a deadline. That's making me worried, and that's giving me a sense of urgency. So let's go to source. I don't expect the sender. I don't really trust them, and I definitely don't know them. So let's hold. I can conclude, based off the previous letters that we just ran through, that this is most likely a scam. I'm not going to click or call that number because I don't trust them. So the best thing to do in a scenario like this is just to mark if it came in an email as spam and bin it. Now let's look at another scenario. So this is a Facebook ad that's designed to trick us into clicking the link there. But before we do that, let's just pause. So we can see that, you know, it's got a news ad here. It's come from a strange profile. I'm not sure what Nice Shot Pick is, and it's sponsored. So let's hover. So let's read through what they've got here. It was only after the interview that he understood what had just been said. The authorities are furious and producers are trying to take action. So not sure what that means, but let's identify. This doesn't really make sense, though it is sparking my curiosity. Wonder what he said, but I'm not entirely sure yet. So let's go to the next step. Source. Nice Shot Pick. I've never seen anything from them before. It doesn't really look like a news site profile. I'm going to say that I don't trust them. And let's hold. So maybe if I'm still really curious, instead of clicking their link here, I'm just going to search the news for myself and see if it's a real story. So the last scenario here is one that might be less common, but I think it's crucial to show. Now, these message exchanges might not even come from a stranger. It can come from a friend's profile if they've been compromised. So let's again go through the steps. Pause. So let's assume in this scenario, these messages are coming from a friend. They're saying that, you know, I just sold some things online, but my current account is currently limited. Can you receive a payment, withdraw it, and then bank transfer it to me? So that's a request that's a bit weird coming from them, but you know, they're my friend and I want to help them out. But let's go through the other steps first. So hover. If you have to reply, try to say that you can't do it right now. So this person here said, sure, I can probably do that. I'm working right now, but I can do it later. And again, what the scammers normally try and do is create a sense of urgency so that you don't recognize red flags. So always say you can't do it right now if you're unsure, or ask for more information. In this case, if you don't have enough to read through just yet. So after that, you can identify. So their reply is, what's your number again? My phone's about to die. I need to text you on my computer instead. So now it's got a sense of urgency. Their phone is about to die. They're asking for my number, which is weird if they can just call through the Messenger app, right? But it's making me feel a bit guilty and worried because as a source, I know this person, they're my friend and I trust them. But after going through the previous steps, I'm feeling a little bit unsure. So hold. I'm going to contact them on something else, a phone call to their number if I have it, or an email to them if I have that. explaining the situation just to check its legitimacy before I do anything, because they might not even be aware that their account has been compromised. So by taking this approach, that would also let them know about the situation. Now let's see how the personalities would react to these situations. Because 2 lakhs takes everything at face value, they're more likely to open links and attachments and call unknown numbers to continue to engage with the scammer. Cyber Smart knows what's expected and unexpected. They also use the FISH acronym to suss out situations they're unsure of. They don't engage with it or take the time to look up things and to confirm them before taking action. Paranoid might be tricked simply because even though everything is suspicious, they're very prone to feeling scared or fear or worry for being compromised again, or if it's their first time, they might just fear that in general. They might panic and close accounts as an over precaution or struggle to know what is real or not. Hopefully by now, all of you are feeling a little bit more aligned with CyberSmart, which if you do, that's awesome. So let's take a look at some general habits that you can adopt, even if it's in future, to feel more secure in being online. So remember those 3 pillars. Now these ones are a little bit different for almost everything that you use online. You will need these 3 credentials to access them. So how can we protect it? It's good to have about 1 to 3 email addresses. Email 1 is your personal and highly important one. You use this for your banking, government identities, and official sites and systems, etc. Email 2, this is your casual one. So you can use this for, messaging, social media apps, your Netflix, your news sites, Trade Me, or just sites you generally frequently visit. Email 3, it's your junk email. You can use this for temporary signups for those sweet discounts, or just anything you don't really plan on using more than a couple times. Now your phone number. In most cases, you shouldn't be giving this out unless you want the place you're giving it to text or to call you. So, and then the last one, which is your email passwords, they should all be complex yet memorable. You should not be sharing them with any other login accounts that you have. For that junk email, that 3rd email account I was talking about, you can also just use a temporary email site instead of setting up a 3rd permanent email if you prefer. Give your phone number out to only important sites or ones that require it for things like confirmation bookings or 2-factor authentication as a backup. I'll mention it again because it's very important. For your email password, it should not be shared with any other accounts that you have. I'll give you guys a resource soon for those temp emails as well, because that's something you can use instead of the junk one that I mentioned. And if a site requires you to enter a phone number to proceed, but it's not for a verification or a 2FA code, and you don't want to give it, you can just make it up. Most of them will accept any random string of digits as long as it makes up the length of a phone number. And remember, for your email passwords, they should be changed at least every year to something new and unique just to keep them secure. So what about the things that you can't see? So the things running in the background that you might not be able to use that FISH acronym for. And that's where antivirus applications or cybersecurity software such as ESET can come in. And it doesn't just mean antivirus anymore, as many people like to ask me, why do I need cybersecurity if my computer already has Windows Defender? Well, you're not just running programs anymore. You're mainly visiting websites, and software like ESET and others are designed to protect your online browsing, your banking, and from things that you might not even be able to see immediately that can be embedded in the back end of sites. So that means the coding within the website. These things are designed to compromise you without you ever being able to know if you didn't have anything that could tell you. So you don't know what you don't know. So when these attacks happen, you can see that it can alert you and you can remain secure in your online browsing, knowing that you weren't falling vulnerable or victim to something that you couldn't even see. So much like doctors, AV software can also treat your system if you do happen to open a malicious file or an attachment or visit a bad link. We're only human. We're going to make mistakes sometimes, even if we're generally super vigilant or on top of our education. So it's important to have it as a backup. Other security programs, including ESET, can have built-in functions like managing your passwords, the ability to scan files before you open them, and if you did click on something that you're not sure of, you can always go back and check the logs to see that it was scanned before you visited it so that you know that you were safe. And even if you don't have security software or you've been victimized, I'll give you resources that are completely free that you can also use. So first one is Have I Been Pawned? So this is a website that you can use to check whether your email addresses or other credentials have been found in an online data breach. It'll also give you information on which site was breached so you can change your credentials for it. For example, if I entered my email here and it shows that it was a Facebook data breach where it was picked up, I now know that I need to change my Facebook login info and especially the password so that the information in that breach cannot be used to log into my account. VirusTotal is another good free website, so you can scan files you've downloaded to check that they're safe before you open them. You can also enter website addresses into VirusTotal to see their reputation before you visit them to see if they're safe. And then the other one here is Temp Mail. So Temp Mail is a website where you can create a temporary email with a fake inbox. So this is an option to use instead of that third junk email I was talking about, but it's a good resource for any sites that you don't want to revisit but require you to make an account in order to access the content. And if you've ever been compromised or you do come across a scam, there's a couple sites that you can report it to. So the National Cybersecurity Centre is a government organisation in New Zealand where you can report cybercrime if you see it or get steps to help resolve anything if you've been personally targeted. They also use this information to try and take down the scam or to prevent other people from falling victim to it as well. NetSafe is another organization you can report to. The forms are really easy to navigate and they can assist you with the issue that you've been victimized with and put you in touch with any agencies necessary for the circumstances of that issue. So after this webinar today, I want to say again that we greatly appreciate your words and inputs on these things as it can help make future webinars even better for you and the kind of content that you'd be interested in seeing or learning about. We had some really good questions and feedback last time. A lot of people who got in touch with us and said, you know, they work for cyber agencies themselves or they set up an initiative similar to this based around education. And if that's you again here, thank you for coming along and we'd love to hear from you as well. So if you can please take the time to fill out the survey, we'll send it after today's session. It would be greatly appreciated. And we do hope that you can all visit us again for our future webinars. So we'll be hosting one of these once every month. Each one has a different topic. And again, everyone is welcome, regardless of whether they're an ESET customer or not. We want to make it easy and fun for you to learn these things for anyone of any cyber literacy experience levels. Next time, we'll be discussing phishing and social engineering. So that's the human factor to these scams, how they operate and who are the people on the other side and what do they gain or how do they work around these sorts of scams. And I'll just get Brad if he wants to say a couple of words as well.
Cool, no, all good. I was watching questions and so on. We've just had a couple of people saying thanks for an awesome webinar, excellent presentation, that sort of stuff. That's all good. But yeah, no questions so far. We can hang around. We've got until 12 booked out on our calendars, so we can hang around for a very long time if people have got
Yeah.
questions. And yeah, more than happy to answer them live. And just one thing I wanted to make mention of is some of the protections in the browser. Maddie sort of touched on that, but there are some unique things that ESET has, such as, say, microphone protection, webcam protection, that sort of thing. So, some of the scams that we've been listening to, you've been watching you. With ESET, you can sort of be guaranteed that, anytime an application asks for that access, with ESET, you can control it. That's just one example. There's a million more, but of course, this is more sort of about education, if you like, not necessarily the products themselves.
Yeah. Awesome. So we'll hang around for a little bit, a couple of minutes, just to see if anyone does have any questions, or if you just want me to clarify something that you weren't sure of and that I talked about, but you weren't really understanding that. You can drop the question in the chat, and I'll be happy to clarify it for you.
Cool. I did just see one question popped up. Does the basic home license for 2 devices work on mobile phones? The answer is yes. If you buy 2 devices, yeah, both could be mobile phones, both could be PCs, it could be one of each, of course. Just one little thing though, with iOS, there isn't really such a thing as antivirus out there for it. The reason for that is that all of the apps are verified by Apple. It's the only way to get apps onto the device. But yeah, with Androids, definitely, we have a lot of people out there running ESET on Androids. And if you did come along to the previous one, we did touch a little bit on some of the Android scams and bad applications that are out there, specifically targeting Android users in New Zealand.
Yeah, I'd also love to say, if you missed the first webinar about the types of threats and stuff that Brad is talking about, and you'd want to see that again, if you take the survey at the end, you are welcome to just enter your email and just say you want the recording, and we'll send that to you as well.
Cool. And I just saw another question there come through about the password manager. So at the moment, yes, ESET does have a password manager. They're actually planning on discontinuing it in about 1.5 years time. And the reason for that is that all of the browsers have them built in these days, and ESET have seen a pretty slow uptake there on people that are licensed for it, actually running their password manager. So their logic there is they'll focus on more things, such as I mentioned before, the webcam and microphone. That's something that ESET have been focusing on because they see that there's more of a need out there for that sort of thing. So yeah, not quite. Now, Michael, I must admit, I don't know your name there. I'm not sure if you're a business customer, but as part of the brands that ChiliSoft sell, we do have other options, sort of a business-focused password manager where you can sort of share passwords to the users in the environment without them actually knowing it. So handy for sort of, a single shared login or a help desk sort of situation, that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely, if it's a business question, reach out to us. But from the home range, the answer is unfortunately not.
Sweet. So we'll just stay another minute or so if anyone has any other questions. Don't forget that there is the survey. So if you do only think of one after the fact, that's fine.
We've got another one there from Paul, talking about, didn't trust Facebook when it came out. I guess a lot of us didn't necessarily want to post everything up on Facebook. And then over the years,
Yeah.
as Maddie talked about, everyone became more relaxed.
Yeah.
And then now we've got AI systems. Sorry, and this is going back to Paul's question. AI systems asking for its system to allow access to calendar files, other stuff. I guess that the first thing there is, something like ChatGPT or whatever. There's obviously a million of them out there. They're only getting data from people. So, and then they're using that. So it can be sort of, possible to manipulate. And especially if you work in, say, law or something like that, I think, uploading some stuff and saying, please rephrase this to something public like ChatGPT is one of the silliest things you can do, because they're just effectively collecting all of that information. And I'm sure if you manage to give it the right prompt, you might be able to pull something out from something that another organization and other individuals uploaded there. So yeah, definitely on the AI note, you need to be careful. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. I forget which webinar, but we are going to touch on that a little bit. But yeah, obviously, the more information you're feeding the AI systems, then the more information they know about you, and the more that somebody might inadvertently sort of prompt them for to share and then come back to you.
I do want to say as well, yeah, good point there, Brad. Anything that you have on a website, like something quite scary that I've done recently is I've searched my own name in ChatGPT. Shouldn't do that, by the way, don't do that. But it's just out of curiosity to see what it can pull up. And it can pull up anything. So it normally just pulls from things like LinkedIn, it can pull from your place of work's, about me if you've got a page dedicated to you on your website for your company. It can pull information from anywhere and it can build a profile on you. So if someone prompts it and asks it for that information, it can give what's publicly out there to whoever's asking for it. So ChatGPT is one of those things, or AI in general, that the law hasn't really caught up with. There's no real law against the kind of information it gives out, or what it collects. So if you do have public profiles for you guys who are just home users, like using Facebook and that sort of thing, make sure that anyone who isn't your friend or someone that you don't want to have access to your profile, make sure that it's not accessible. So Facebook does have an account lock feature, which if you're curious about that, just ask in the survey. I'll reach out and show you how to do that. And that basically locks your account down so that when anyone's trying to look at your profile, that's just all they see is your name, your profile picture, and your banner. They've got no access to any of the content that you've got on your wall or your friends list or any photos that you've uploaded. So that's a crucial feature to turn on if you mainly use Facebook as well.
Cool. And then we've got another question there from Barry. Need to upgrade my level of ESET protection. How do I do that? If it's for the reseller, reach out to the reseller. They'll be able to advise you. And again, of course, you'll have that survey come out soon, so you can pop some notes in there, or you can flick up an email.
So it is the last question. So if you have any questions or queries for us personally, just write your query, and please remember to put in your email so we can reach out to you. Because the survey is anonymous, so we don't have any of the information if you do not put the email there for us to contact for you.
Cool. And then for the moment, at least, the last question. Now, that's not to say you can't answer more questions. We've still got more time, of course. But we got a question about someone's cloning me on Facebook, sending messages and trying to start conversations. Now, unfortunately, that happens in a couple of different ways. Obviously, if someone's cloning you, that's specific to the target on you. It's probably not because, there's someone that knows you and they really care about you. They're probably just a random sort of hacker / attacker, whatever you want to call them, that's just found some information about you and feel like they've got enough information to clone you. Unfortunately, there's nothing that you can do too much there other than logging it with Facebook and obviously communicating with the real people that your real friends on there to say, hey, be super careful, because Maddie showed that scam before, the PayPal one. So
I would recommend for you, if that's the situation that you're facing, that someone has cloned your account using your profile picture and all that sort of stuff, I'd actually recommend creating a separate Facebook profile account. Again, make the credentials really complex. Enter, when you upload things, your profile picture and that sort of thing, turn on the security feature where you lock your profile down and reach out to friends and stuff through other means, maybe email and that sort of thing, to let them know that you've made the separate profile and that's your real one. And if anyone gets contacted by this other profile, that's a fake one, and to not trust it.
And the only problem, I guess, as well, is if it is quite targeted, there's nothing really stopping them from just making another one and just making another one and so on. So that's a little bit tricky.
For sure. But that's why it'd be good if you can maybe contact, not through Facebook, but maybe email the friends that you do have and let them know that, that account has been cloned and this is your real one. This is the only one that you've got. And if they're not sure, to ask you first. If they ever get contacted and there's another clone out there.
Alrighty, and for the moment, that's got us all up to date there. So we'll sit there for another minute or so, and then again, obviously, I said we've got all the time in the world. So any more questions, feel free to ask.
Sweet. So yeah. thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you at the next one. I think it'll be a very cool and interesting one. So if you can attend that, that'd be great. Invite anyone along that you think might be interested as well. And I'll see you guys next time.